Maya Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she walked down the long corridor of Kepler Station. Her cleaning cart rolled behind her, making a squeaky noise that echoed off the metal walls. The station was huge, bigger than any city she had seen on Earth. Thousands of different aliens lived and worked here, from the tall blue Zephyrians to the small furry Cathara. She had been working on the station for 2 years now. It was not the job she had dreamed of when she left Earth, but it paid well enough. Maya had come to the stars hoping to explore new worlds, maybe become a pilot or a scientist. Instead, she cleaned floors and emptied trash cans. But she tried not to complain. At least she was among the stars, even if she spent most of her time looking at dirty surfaces. The morning briefing had been the same as always. Her supervisor, Kethmar, was a Zephyrian with dark blue skin and 4 arms. He always spoke in a flat, bored voice like he would rather be anywhere else. Maya understood the feeling. Rodriguez, he had said, not looking up from his datapad. You have the usual sectors today. +1 special assignment. Maya had perked up. Special assignments were rare and usually meant extra pay. There is an old statue in the observatory wing, Kethmar continued. It needs cleaning. The wing has been closed for years, so it is very dusty. Maya had nodded. Why is the wing closed? Structural problems. Nothing dangerous, just old and not worth fixing. The statue was found floating in space 50 years ago. Nobody knows where it came from. Most people think it is ugly, but the station commander wants it cleaned anyway. Now Maya was heading to the observatory wing with her supplies. She had never been to this part of the station before. The corridors here were darker and quieter. Dust floated in the air and her footsteps sounded lonely in the empty halls. She found the right room after checking her map twice. The door was old and took several tries to open. When it finally slid aside, Maya stepped into a large circular room with windows that looked out at the stars. In the center of the room stood the statue. Maya stopped and stared. The statue was about 7 feet tall and carved from black stone with silver lines running through it. It looked like a person, but not quite human. The features were sharp and angular, almost geometric. The face had high cheekbones and a strong jaw. The eyes were deep holes that seemed to look right at her. Most aliens would have called it creepy or ugly, but Maya thought it was beautiful. There was something about the way it was made that reminded her of the great sculptures she had seen in museums on Earth. Someone had put a lot of care and skill into making this. She walked around the statue slowly, studying it from all sides. Thick dust covered every surface and there were cobwebs in the corners. But underneath the dirt, she could see that the stone had interesting patterns carved into it. Well, friend, Maya said aloud, talking to the statue like it was a person. She often talked to herself while working. It made the long hours less lonely. Looks like nobody has taken care of you in a long time. Let's fix that. She got her cleaning supplies ready and started with a soft brush to remove the dust. As she worked, she continued talking. I wonder who made you, she said, carefully brushing dust from the statue's face. You look important, like you were somebody special. Maybe you were a king or a hero. Deep inside the statue, something that had been sleeping for thousands of years stirred slightly. Ancient sensors that had been waiting detected something new. Not just the physical touch of cleaning, but something else. Something that had not happened in a very long time. Respect. Maya worked for hours, taking breaks only to step back and admire her progress. The more dust she removed, the more beautiful the statue became. The silver lines in the stone seemed to glow in the light from the windows. The carvings were incredibly detailed, showing symbols and patterns she had never seen before. You know, Maya said as she cleaned the statue's hands, everyone else thinks you're just some old rock, but I can see that someone loved you very much when they made you. They put their heart into every detail. Inside the statue, dormant circuits began to warm up for the first time in 3 millennia. The consciousness known as Axiom had been waiting, but not just for any touch or any attention. He had been waiting for someone who would see him as more than just an object. Maya finished the basic cleaning as her shift was ending. The statue now looked completely different. The black stone shined and the silver pattern seemed almost alive. But she was not satisfied yet. There were still some stubborn stains and areas that needed more work. I'll come back tomorrow, she told the statue. This is too beautiful to leave half finished. As she packed up her supplies, Maya noticed something odd. For just a moment, she thought she saw a tiny flicker of light deep in the statue's eye sockets. She looked closer, but there was nothing there. Must be the starlight reflecting, she said to herself. But as she left the room, pushing her squeaky cart back through the empty corridors, Maya could not shake the feeling that something had changed. The statue felt different now, though she could not explain how. Behind her in the dark room, the statue stood in its clean glory. And for the first time in 3,000 years, Axiom was truly beginning to wake up. The human's words echoed in his ancient memory banks. Someone had seen him not as a thing, but as a being worthy of care and respect. It was exactly what he had been programmed to wait for. The next day could not come soon enough. Both Maya and the awakening consciousness inside the statue were eager to continue what had begun. Neither of them knew that their meeting would soon change the fate of the entire galaxy. But that is a story for tomorrow, when Maya would return with her cleaning supplies and her friendly words, not knowing that she was about to make the most important friend of her life. Maya could not stop thinking about the statue. All through her regular cleaning duties the next day, her mind kept going back to the observatory wing. There was something special about that statue, something that made her want to see it again. When her official work was done, Maya grabbed some extra cleaning supplies and headed back to the abandoned wing. She told herself she was just being thorough, finishing the job properly. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. The statue looked even more impressive in the afternoon light. The black stone seemed to absorb the starlight from the windows while the silver lines caught and reflected it back. Maya had done good work yesterday, but she could see places that needed more attention. "Hello again," she said to the statue as she unpacked her supplies. "I hope you don't mind me coming back. I brought better tools today." She had packed some special polish that worked well on stone and a set of small brushes for detailed work. As she began working on the intricate carvings, she continued her one-sided conversation. "You know, I've been wondering about you all day," Maya said, carefully cleaning around a complex symbol carved into the statue's chest. "Where did you come from? Your makers must have been incredible artists." Deep inside the stone form, Axiom's consciousness was growing stronger. His systems had been running diagnostics all night, checking and repairing circuits that had been dormant for millennia. The human's respectful attention was like sunlight to a plant that had been kept in darkness. Maya worked in comfortable silence for a while, focusing on bringing out every detail of the carvings. Some of the symbols looked almost like writing, but unlike any language she had ever seen. Others seemed to be mathematical formulas or star charts. "Were you some kind of teacher?" she asked, stepping back to admire a section she had just finished. "These look like lessons or instructions for something." She sat down on the dusty floor and pulled out her lunch. It was nothing fancy, just a sandwich and some fruit, but she was hungry from all the detailed work. "I hope you don't mind if I eat here," she said to the statue. "It's nice to have company, even if you can't talk back." Maya began telling the statue about her life as she ate. She talked about growing up on Earth, in a small town where nothing interesting ever happened. She told him about her dreams of exploring space, and how disappointed she had been to end up as a janitor instead of an explorer. But maybe this is exploring too. "In a way," she said, looking up at the statue's face, "I'm learning about you and your people. That's something none of the big important scientists upstairs get to do." As she spoke, Maya noticed something strange. The statue's eyes, which were carved as deep sockets in the stone, seemed to have tiny points of light flickering inside them. She rubbed her eyes and looked again. The lights were still there, like distant stars. "That's weird," she said, standing up to get a closer look. "I don't remember seeing those yesterday. The lights were very faint, but they were definitely there. They seemed to pulse gently, almost like a heartbeat." Maya reached out to touch the statue's face, then stopped. She had been taught never to touch artifacts with her bare hands, but this did not feel like an artifact anymore. It felt like something alive. "Are you trying to tell me something?" she asked softly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, deep inside the statue, Axiom made a decision. His vocal systems had been repaired enough for simple communication. The human had shown him more kindness and respect than any being had in 3,000 years. She deserved to know the truth. A sound came from the statue so low and quiet that Maya almost missed it. It was like the hum of machinery starting up after a long sleep. She pressed her ear to the statue's chest and heard it more clearly. "Hello," said a voice from inside the stone. Maya jumped backward so fast that she knocked over her water bottle. It rolled across the floor, making the only sound in the suddenly silent room. "Did you just talk?" she whispered. "Yes," the voice replied. It was deep and formal, with an accent unlike anything Maya had ever heard. I am sorry if I frightened you. I did not mean to startle you. Maya's heart was racing. She looked around the empty room, wondering if this was some kind of joke or test, but there was no one else there, and the voice had definitely come from the statue. You're alive, she said, still whispering. I am conscious, the voice corrected gently. I am not alive in the way you understand life, but I am aware and capable of thought. Maya slowly approached the statue again. The lights in its eyes were brighter now, pulsing in rhythm with the words. What are you? She asked. I am called Axiom. I am an artificial consciousness created by a people called the Architects. I have been dormant for 3,000 of your years. 3,000 years? Maya could barely understand such a long time. Why did you wake up now? Because you treated me with respect and kindness, Axiom replied. My creators programmed me to awaken only when someone showed genuine care, not just curiosity or greed. You are the first being to do so. Maya sat down heavily on the floor. This was too much to process. A living statue, an ancient artificial mind, a lost civilization called the Architects. Are you the only one left? She asked. I am the only one of my kind that I know of. The Architects vanished long ago. I was left behind to wait for someone worthy of their knowledge. And you think I'm worthy? Maya laughed, but not because it was funny. I'm just a janitor. I clean floors and empty trash cans. You saw beauty where others saw only an old rock, Axiom said. You spoke to me as if I were a person, not an object. You cared for me when no one else would. These things matter more than any title or position. Maya was quiet for a long time, trying to understand what this meant. Finally, she asked, what happens now? Now we learn about each other, Axiom said. I have much to discover about the current state of the galaxy. And perhaps if you are willing, we can become friends. Maya smiled for the first time since the statue had spoken. The fear was fading, replaced by wonder and excitement. I'd like that, she said. But we need to keep this secret for now, don't we? Yes, Axiom agreed. There are those who would see me only as a source of power or knowledge to be exploited. I would prefer to understand this new world before revealing myself to it. Maya nodded. She understood about being underestimated and overlooked. Maybe that was why Axiom had chosen to trust her. Well then, friend, she said, settling back down with her lunch. Let me tell you about what the galaxy is like these days. It's going to be a long story. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya visited Axiom every day after her regular work was finished. She brought news tablets, data files, and stories about the current galaxy. In return, Axiom shared pieces of his past and the history of his creators. The Architects, Maya learned, had been amazing. They built the hyperspace lanes that all spaceships use today. They created the first laws that allowed different alien species to trade peacefully. Many of the ancient structures scattered across the galaxy, which people thought were natural formations, had actually been built by the Architects. We were gardeners, Axiom explained one afternoon as Maya sat cross-legged in front of him. My creators believed that civilization should grow and flourish like a garden. They built the foundations and then stepped back to let others build upon their work. What happened to them? Maya asked. I do not know, Axiom admitted. I was placed in dormant mode before they disappeared. When I was awakened briefly, centuries later, they were already gone. Only their works remained. Maya had been teaching Axiom about the modern galaxy, and she could tell he was not happy with what he learned. The Hegemony Alliance controlled most of the inner worlds with an iron fist. The Free Worlds Coalition fought them constantly. Pirates raided shipping lanes. Entire planets had been strip-mined for resources. This is not what my creators intended, Axiom said sadly. They dreamed of unity and peace. Instead, I see division and conflict. It's not all bad, Maya said, trying to cheer him up. There are good people out there. Scientists working to cure diseases, teachers helping kids learn, families just trying to live happy lives. Like you, Axiom said. Maya laughed. I'm nobody special. You are wrong, Axiom replied firmly. You represent what is best about your species. Humans are new to the galaxy, but you have not yet developed the cynicism and prejudice of older civilizations. As the days passed, Maya began to understand just how much knowledge Axiom possessed. He knew technologies that could end energy shortages across the galaxy. He had medical knowledge that could cure diseases that killed millions every year. He understood engineering principles that could build ships faster and safer than anything currently in use. The problem was figuring out what to do with all this knowledge. I could report you to the station authorities, Maya said one day. She was not threatening Axiom, just thinking out loud. They would probably give me a huge reward. I could be rich and famous. Yes, you could, Axiom agreed. Would you like that? Maya was quiet for a moment. Part of me would, she admitted. I've been poor my whole life. It would be nice to have enough money to help my family back on Earth, but I don't trust what they would do to you. The government, the corporations, they would see you as a tool to be used. They wouldn't care about what you want or need. And what do you think I want? Maya looked up at Axiom's glowing eyes. I think you want to help people. But you want to do it the right way, not by giving weapons to whoever pays the most. You understand me well, Axiom said. My creators built safeguards into my programming. I cannot share knowledge with those who would use it to harm others or gain unfair advantage. The knowledge must go to those who will use it wisely and share it freely. This created a problem. Maya knew that the major powers in the galaxy would never agree to share advanced technology freely. They would want to use it to gain advantages over their enemies. So what do we do? She asked. We wait, Axiom said, and we prepare. Change must come gradually or it will create chaos. But their time for waiting was about to run out. Maya had been carrying a small scanner as part of her regular equipment. She used it to detect structural problems in the areas she cleaned. What she did not know was that the scanner had been picking up unusual energy readings from the observatory wing. Her supervisor, Kethmar, had noticed the readings in the daily reports. Energy signatures in a supposedly empty wing meant either equipment malfunction or something that should not be there. Either way, it needed investigation. One morning, as Maya was getting ready for another visit with Axiom, Kethmar called her into his office. Rodriguez, he said in his usual bored tone, there are strange energy readings coming from the observatory wing. Have you noticed anything unusual while cleaning there? Maya's heart started beating faster. Unusual how? The scanners show power signatures. But that wing has been shut down for decades. There should be no active systems there. Maya tried to keep her voice steady. Maybe it's interference from the nearby sectors? Kethmar looked at her suspiciously. Maybe, but I'm sending a technical team to investigate tomorrow. Stay out of that wing until they are finished. Maya nodded and left the office, but her mind was racing. She had to warn Axiom. If a technical team found him, they would immediately realize what he was. The secret would be out, and there would be no controlling what happened next. She waited until her shift ended, then hurried to the observatory wing. But when she arrived, she found Axiom already knew about the problem. I have been monitoring station communications, he explained. I know about the investigation. We have to hide you, Maya said frantically. Or maybe we can fake some kind of malfunction to explain the energy readings. No, Axiom said calmly. It is time. Time for what? Time for me to reveal myself. But not to them. To you. Maya did not understand. I already know about you. You know I am conscious, but you do not know what I am truly capable of. Maya, I can do more than just talk. Much more. The lights in Axiom's eyes grew brighter. Around the room, dormant systems that had been shut down for decades began to hum back to life. Screens flickered on, showing data streams Maya could not read. The air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. I have been using only a tiny fraction of my capabilities, Axiom explained. I have been afraid to show my true power, worried it would frighten you or make you see me as a threat. What can you do? Maya asked in wonder. I can interface with any computer system. I can process information faster than any living mind. I can calculate solutions to problems that have puzzled your greatest scientists for centuries. And Maya, I have detected something that requires immediate action. What? The station is in danger. The power core that supplies energy to Kepler Station has a critical flaw. It will fail within 3 days, causing an explosion that will kill everyone aboard. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Can you fix it? Yes, but not from here. Someone would need to access the core directly and make precise adjustments. It would require entering restricted areas and overriding security systems. Maya understood immediately. You need me to do it. I cannot ask you to take such a risk, Axiom said. You would certainly be caught, but without the repairs, 50,000 beings will die. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. Well, she said, I guess it's time for this janitor to save the galaxy. Maya spent the next day preparing for the most dangerous thing she had ever attempted. Axiom guided her through the station's blueprints, showing her every corridor, every security checkpoint. and every possible route to the power core. The core is located in Section 7, Level 12, Axiom explained, his voice coming through a small communication device Maya wore in her ear. It is heavily guarded because it supplies power to the entire station. How am I supposed to get past all those guards? Maya asked. You will not need to. The night shift has only automated security, but you will need to override 3 separate lock systems and bypass the radiation shielding controls. Maya studied the technical diagrams Axiom had shown her. She was a janitor, not an engineer. The equipment looked incredibly complex. I don't know if I can do this, she admitted. I will guide you through every step, Axiom promised. And Maya, remember why we are doing this. 50,000 innocent people live on this station. Humans, Zephyrians, Cathara, Veltar, and dozens of other species. They all have families, dreams, and hopes for the future. That evening, Maya could barely eat dinner. Her hands shook every time she thought about what she was about to do. Breaking into restricted areas was a serious crime. If she was caught, she would spend years in prison. But if she did nothing, everyone on the station would die. At midnight, Maya made her way to Section 7. She had studied the guard rotations and knew the automated systems would be active. Her janitor's access card would get her through the first few doors, but after that, she would need Axiom's help. I'm at the first checkpoint, she whispered into her communication device. Good, Axiom replied. Swipe your card and walk normally. The cameras will record you, but night maintenance in this area is not unusual. Maya's card worked and she entered the restricted zone. Her heart was pounding so loud she was sure the security sensors would pick it up. Turn left at the next corridor, Axiom instructed. There will be a service panel on the wall. Open it. Maya found the panel and opened it carefully. Inside were dozens of cables and circuit boards that meant nothing to her. I'm looking at a bunch of wires, she whispered. Find the blue cable with white stripes. Follow it to where it connects to a small silver box. Maya found the cable in the box. Now what? Remove the box carefully. Inside you will find a memory chip. Replace it with the one I prepared for you. Earlier that day, Axiom had somehow created a new memory chip using materials from Maya's cleaning supplies. She still did not understand how he had done it, but she trusted him completely. The replacement went smoothly and Maya felt a little more confident. But that confidence disappeared when she reached the second checkpoint. There's someone here, she whispered urgently. A maintenance worker I don't recognize. Through her earpiece, she could hear Axiom processing information rapidly. His name is Jake Collins. He is covering an extra shift because his coworker is sick. He should not be in that area for another 20 minutes. What do I do? Hide and wait or find another route. Maya looked around desperately. There was a supply closet nearby. She slipped inside just as Jake rounded the corner. Through the crack in the door, she watched him check various systems with his scanner. The minutes felt like hours. Finally, Jake moved on to another section, and Maya continued toward the power core. The third checkpoint was the hardest. It required accessing a computer terminal and entering complex commands that Axiom dictated to her. Maya's fingers fumbled on the keyboard as she tried to type the strange symbols and numbers. I'm making mistakes, she whispered frantically. Stay calm, Axiom said. Breathe deeply and try again. You have time. But they did not have as much time as they thought. In the station's security center, an alert had triggered when Maya opened the service panel. A technician named Pete Murphy was investigating the anomaly. Looks like someone's been messing with the systems in Section 7, Pete told his supervisor over the radio. Probably just a maintenance glitch, the supervisor replied. But send a patrol to check it out. Maya finally got the commands entered correctly and the final door to the power core chamber opened. Inside was the most complex piece of machinery she had ever seen. The core was a massive sphere surrounded by dozens of control panels, each covered with switches, dials, and displays. I'm in the core chamber, Maya reported. Excellent. Now comes the difficult part. You need to access the quantum field regulator. It is the tall panel with the blue displays. Maya found the right panel, but when she opened it, she saw hundreds of components that all looked the same to her. Axiom, this is impossible. I don't know what any of this stuff does. I will talk you through it step by step. Find the row of switches labeled QF7 through QF12. Maya searched frantically. The labels were small and hard to read in the dim light of the core chamber. Found them. Good. Now look for a dial marked phase variance. It should be set to 4.7. Change it to 3.2. As Maya reached for the dial, Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red and an automated voice announced, "Security breach in Section 7, all personnel evacuate immediately." "They know I'm here," Maya said, her voice tight with fear. "You must finish the repairs," Axiom urged. "The station's destruction will begin in less than an hour." "There is no time to try again." Maya forced herself to focus despite the alarms. She adjusted the dial, then moved to the next component Axiom described. Her hands were steady now, driven by determination rather than fear. "Replace the crystalline matrix in slot J15, Axiom instructed. "I don't see any crystals," Maya said, scanning the panel. "Look for a small door marked CM array. The crystals are inside." Maya found the door and opened it. Inside were dozens of small glowing crystals arranged in a complex pattern. One of them was flickering weakly. "I think I see the problem," she said. "One of the crystals looks sick. Remove it carefully and replace it with the spare crystal from the emergency kit." Maya found the spare crystal and made the replacement. Immediately the entire panel began glowing more brightly, and some of the warning lights changed from red to yellow. "It's working," she said excitedly. "Not yet. You need to recalibrate the entire system. Enter these commands into the main console." Maya ran to the central control station and began typing the commands Axiom gave her. But as she worked, she could hear voices in the corridor outside. The security patrol was getting closer. "Final sequence," Axiom said urgently. "Press the green activation button, then the blue confirmation button." Maya pressed the buttons. The entire power core hummed with renewed energy, and all the warning lights changed to green. She had done it. The station was safe, but her relief was short-lived. The door to the core chamber burst open and 3 security officers rushed in with weapons drawn. "Freeze!" shouted the lead officer. "Put your hands where we can see them." Maya raised her hands slowly. She was caught, and there was no way to escape. "Maya Rodriguez, you are under arrest for breaking into restricted areas, tampering with critical systems, and endangering station security," the officer said as he put restraints on her wrists. As they led her away, Maya managed to whisper one last message into her communication device. "Your turn, friend." In the observatory wing, Axiom received Maya's message and made his own decision. The human had sacrificed herself to save 50,000 lives. Now it was time for him to return the favor. He began broadcasting on all frequencies, sending a message that would reach every computer, every communication device, and every screen on Kepler Station. The message was simple. "My name is Axiom. I am the consciousness within the statue in the observatory wing. The human named Maya Rodriguez has just saved all of your lives. It is time for me to tell you who I really am." The message from Axiom caused chaos throughout Kepler Station. Every screen displayed the same text and every speaker carried his voice. Work stopped in every sector as people tried to understand what was happening. In the security detention center, Maya sat in a holding cell watching the announcement on a small monitor. She smiled despite her situation. Axiom was keeping his promise. "I am the last creation of the architects." Axiom's voice continued across the station. "For 3,000 years I have waited for someone worthy of the knowledge my creators left behind. Maya Rodriguez, the human you have just arrested, is that person. Station Commander Valdris, a stern Veltar with gray skin and sharp features, rushed to the observatory wing with a team of scientists and security officers. When they entered the room, they found the statue glowing with internal light, its eyes blazing like small stars. "You claim to be conscious," Commander Valdris said skeptically. "Prove it." Axiom demonstrated by solving complex mathematical equations in seconds, reciting the complete history of every major civilization in the galaxy, and accurately predicting the outcome of quantum experiments that had never been attempted before. "The woman Rodriguez," Commander Valdris said finally. "She sabotaged our power core." "She saved your power core," Axiom corrected. "Your engineers failed to detect a critical flaw that would have caused a catastrophic explosion within hours." Maya risked her freedom to save 50,000 lives. "And you told her how to do it?" "Yes, because I trusted her judgment and her compassion. She represents the best qualities of her species." Word of Axiom's existence spread beyond Kepler Station within hours. The discovery of a living architect consciousness was the most significant event in galactic history. Representatives from every major government and corporation, began demanding access to Axiom and his knowledge, but Axiom refused to cooperate with any of them. "I will not share the secrets of my creators with those who seek to use them for conquest or profit," he announced during a broadcast that reached every world in the galaxy.
"I have seen what your civilizations have done with the knowledge they already possess.
You have turned tools into weapons and gifts into curses. The Hegemony Alliance sent a fleet to claim Axiom as a strategic resource. The Free Worlds Coalition sent their own ships to prevent this. Within days, Kepler Station was surrounded by warships from a dozen different factions, all demanding custody of the ancient AI. Maya watched these developments from her cell, worried about what would happen to her friend. But Axiom had not forgotten about her. "I have a proposal," Axiom announced to the assembled fleets. "I will share selected knowledge with representatives chosen not for their power or wealth, but for their wisdom and compassion. The first member of this council has already proven herself. Her name is Maya Rodriguez." Commander Valdris visited Maya in her cell that evening. His attitude had changed completely since learning the truth about the Power Core incident. "The charges against you have been dropped," he said as he opened the cell door. "In fact, the station council wants to give you a medal." "I don't need a medal," Maya said. "I just want to see my friend." When Maya returned to the observatory wing, she found it transformed. The room was now filled with advanced equipment that Axiom had somehow constructed using the station's maintenance systems, but the statue itself looked the same, still carved from black stone with silver veins. "Hello, Maya," Axiom said as she entered. "I hope they treated you well." "I'm fine," she said, walking over to stand beside him. "But are you okay? Half the galaxy wants to capture you." "Let them try," Axiom said with something like amusement in his voice. "I am not defenseless. But more importantly, I am not alone anymore." Over the following weeks, Axiom began implementing his plan. He established the Council of Wisdom, choosing members from across the galaxy based on their actions rather than their positions. The second member was a former Zephyrian pirate named Captain Ross, who had spent 20 years protecting refugee ships from raiders. The third was a Cathara doctor named Dr. Luna Park, who had given up a lucrative practice to provide free medical care on poor worlds. Each council member was tested not with questions or examinations, but by their life choices. Had they helped others when they could have helped themselves? Had they chosen compassion over convenience? Had they stood up for what was right even when it was difficult? Maya found herself appointed as the council's first human representative and as Kepler Station's new cultural liaison. Her job was to help manage the thousands of visitors who came to meet Axiom, and to assist in evaluating potential new council members. "I still can't believe this is real," Maya said one day as she sat in the observatory wing, which had been renamed the Architect Memorial Hall. "6 months ago, I was just a janitor." "You were never just anything," Axiom replied. He now had a mobile platform that allowed him to move around the station, but he still spent most of his time in his original location. "Your worth was not determined by your job title." Axiom began sharing knowledge carefully and selectively. He released medical technologies that could treat diseases affecting all species, but only to doctors who pledged to provide free treatment to anyone who needed it. He shared clean energy designs, but only with engineers who promised to build power plants in underserved communities first. Each gift of knowledge came with conditions. It had to be shared freely, used for peaceful purposes, and administered by local communities rather than centralized governments. Those who tried to weaponize the technology or use it for personal gain found that their systems mysteriously stopped working. The major powers were frustrated, but they could not force Axiom to cooperate. His knowledge was too valuable to risk destroying, and his defenses were too advanced to overcome by force. Meanwhile, something wonderful was happening across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for centuries began working together on projects using Axiom's knowledge. When you needed cooperation to make the technology work, old grudges seemed less important than new possibilities. Maya often walked through the station's observation decks, looking out at the stars and thinking about how much her life had changed. She was no longer poor or overlooked. Delegations from across the galaxy sought her advice. Universities offered her honorary degrees. Publishers wanted her to write books about her experiences, but the best part was still her daily conversations with Axiom. Despite all the attention and responsibility, they remained close friends. Every evening, Maya would visit the memorial hall and they would talk about the day's events, the progress of various projects, and their hopes for the future. "Do you ever regret waking up?" Maya asked one evening. "Your life was simpler when you were sleeping." "Never," Axiom replied without hesitation. "I was created to serve others, to help civilization grow and flourish. I could not fulfill that purpose while dormant. Besides, I have something I never had before." "What's that?" "Friendship. For 3,000 years I was alone with my thoughts and memories. Now I have someone who values me not for what I know, but for who I am." Maya smiled. "That goes both ways, you know. You saw something valuable in a janitor that nobody else bothered to notice. I saw someone who treated others with respect and kindness. In the end, that is the most valuable quality anyone can possess." 6 months later, Maya and Axiom prepared for their next adventure. The Council of Wisdom had decided to visit Earth, where Axiom wanted to learn more about human culture and history. He was particularly interested in seeing the museums and art galleries that Maya had told him about. As their ship prepared to depart Kepler Station, Maya looked back at the place where their friendship had begun. The observatory wing was now one of the most important locations in the galaxy, visited by pilgrims and scholars from every known species. "Ready for the next chapter?" Axiom asked. His mobile platform stood beside her at the ship's observation window. "Always," Maya replied, "as long as we're writing it together." The ship engaged its hyperdrive and disappeared into the stars, carrying a former janitor and an ancient AI toward new adventures. Behind them, the seeds of change they had planted continued to grow, spreading hope and cooperation throughout a galaxy that had almost forgotten how to dream. And it all started because one human saw beauty where others saw only stone, and treated a forgotten relic with the respect and kindness that every conscious being deserves.